Sometimes as a content creator you make questionable decisions, like the time I decided to create the very first RuneScape OnlyFans for that inclusive behind the scenes look into a RuneScape character called Kriibus. And I had everything. Naughty raids content, kinky skilling Sundays, I mean you name it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. I got exactly 0 people to sign up for my OnlyFans, and you know what else didn't work out in the eyes of many old school RuneScape players? C Engineer's latest video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he made a video a few days ago and it was called I have 200% special attack, and the idea of the video was to let your opponent attack you, which makes them unable to leave the bounty hunter for 30 seconds. Then C Engineer proceeded to spec twice, fill up his spec bar in the lobby rejuvenation pool again, teleport to the target and then spec twice again. A game mechanic that is almost impossible to escape. Because firstly, nobody expects your opponent to spec you 4 times, and secondly, it's unconventional that you don't really think about it. And as soon as that video went live, a Reddit thread popped up that said this. C Engineer's video is a perfect example why so many people hate PvP. 100k risk, main hand Korasi, no switches, and abuses the mechanic that I just showcased you. Players were not happy to say the least. One person said this: "Is consistently one of my favorite content creators, but watching 2 different people get helplessly smited for 200 million GP turned me off this video for some reason. It doesn't usually happen, I mean I watched Torvesta skull trick people for years now, but this video just annoyed me and I can't explain why." And this did happen. If you go to the end of the video and you go for the price check, you can see that he made over 500 million GP profit with this method, including 2 Korasi swords. Some of the players were saying this: "Korasi is the worst PvP update ever. Everybody just double Korasi specs with no risk." Basically, people were saying that the Voidwaker sword being so overpowered and everybody at Bounty Hunter just double specs, guaranteed high damage no matter what. Which I can confirm happened to me as well when I played the minigame. Every time I was not using the Voidwaker sword, I felt like I was in a huge disadvantage against opponents who did have the sword. I do, however, feel the game mechanics C Engineer used could have been also used with other spec weapons like Dragon Claws and range weapons, basically anything that has a massive special attack boost. The reason why I'm saying it's a game mechanic and not a bug abuse like a lot of players have thought is because there inherently isn't anything wrong with what C Engineer did. It's just a mechanic inside the minigame that was overlooked. And unfortunately, there was a lot of other game mechanics in Bounty Hunter that were overlooked as well. One of them was uploaded by this YouTuber called Clipper, and there is a game mechanic currently happening in Bounty Hunter where anyone in the minigame can attack your targets and you can stack damage on top of that, giving your opponent almost 0 time to react and guaranteeing a 100% chance for a kill, because this damage stacking is just too much to handle, especially since you can't protect prayer in this minigame. The video is even called I Broke Bounty Hunter, which I found hilarious. The second mechanic that is kinda being abused is the video Torvesta made about a bridge in Bounty Hunter that you have to cross, and since there is only one path you can take, you are forced into a chokehold that any rusher can take advantage of, because they know your movements, they know you have to go across this bridge and there's nowhere else to go. But this seems more of an annoyance rather than something that is completely broken, and since the upload of this video has now actually been fixed. And luckily, Jagex already patched a lot of the issues with Bounty Hunter in this week's updates. We have things like skipping your targets doesn't give you penalties anymore, there is a 6-second immunity after a rogue player attacks you in the crater, so that means you can't be rushed anymore, losing unintended items on that, and I'm sure they're gonna keep an eye on this for further fix in the upcoming weeks, also for the same mechanics I mentioned before. Unfortunately, this isn't the only time there have been Reddit threads about PvP content creators abusing mechanics. There was a thread about a year ago and it said this: "Torvesta's latest video is why PvP is dead." And the entire purpose of the post was to showcase that it's extremely hard to loot after you get a kill in PvP, because there's always that one person who is there with Teleblock and Fire Surge to hunt you down. And surprisingly, once again, Jagex was on it. They really fast fixed the issue with loot keys and PJ timers, and the problem was solved right off the bat. Then there was 2 years ago another Reddit thread that was talking about framed, and it said PvPers are complaining about PvP being broken while simultaneously trying to abuse any possible trick to get people spanked. Basically what Frame said, that there's not a lot of people in the wilderness anymore and that's why they're doing this. And then people said back how Frame does videos on skull tricking and baiting innocent people to the wilderness. This is the easiest skull trick on RuneScape, skull tricking by logging underneath people, skull tricking noobs, and so on and so on. And there were thoughts about this on both sides of the coin. On one side, the wilderness is supposed to be this forbidden ground where you have almost no rules. Once you enter it, you accept the risks you take, and that's on you. But on the other side, it's completely understandable why a lot of players want to avoid the wilderness for this exact reason. Nobody wants to be skull tricked, nobody wants to be rushed, tricked in any way. It doesn't feel good. It is, however, I think thrown a little bit out of proportion. Like one comment said, it's just the Reddit high mind trying not to pile on challenge impossible. And another comment on top of that said, yeah, it's piling on C engineer is the flavor of the week until Oda comes. Because Oda got slack for the exact same thing last week when the boosting points incident happened. But nobody talked about the thousands of players who also abused the system. Which again, it's awesome. Jagex tried to fix it. I don't know how well it's gonna go, but at least they're trying. Which means, you know, A+ for effort. The reality is, game mechanics and abusing them have gone hand in hand in old school RuneScape for years. We don't really have to go that far to see actually some fun game mechanics that were abused. Randy won a golden gnome for abusing game mechanics that got him a level 3 fire cape. Now, granted, I will say this right now, it didn't hurt any other players like you see with PvP, so even though it's an unintended game mechanic, Randy did it for himself and only himself. The other thing, however, that did affect the game was Tombs of a Mascot. If you don't know, there was a multitude of unintended game mechanics in Doha that had huge impacts on the game. One of them was the fact that you can pretty much safe spot the final boss without taking any damage. You can see right here, you can kinda AFK the final boss, which is surely this was a mistake, right? Of course, what happened in Tombs of a Mascot affected the economy in a bad way, but what happened in Bounty Hunter affected other player experience in a bad way. So they're a little bit different in that sense, but unintended game mechanics are unfortunately just part of any game. It's impossible to detect every issue the game has when it comes out, and the only way to fix that is with a lot of QA testing. The point is that it's gonna happen again, no matter what. And from a content creator's POV, I can say that it's your job essentially to post the most unique content possible, something that nobody else has done, because being unique oftentimes gives you more income. So I kind of understand C Engineer's point of view as well. At the end of the day, he just wants to make awesome unique content, and like with my OnlyFans adventure, sometimes it just doesn't hit the spot. I'm gonna end with this. A user in Reddit made a thread called My Week in Bounty Hunter, which sounds like a title to a reality TV show, and this person said, hey, I had a really fun time. There's nothing better than just wrecking someone with a TDS and making some money while you're at it. To that person, I say you are the best. Keep up the positive attitude, but what do you guys think about this? Is this entire thing blown out of proportion? Was C Engineer wrong in this situation? But that's it from me. I'll see you all tomorrow with another video. Subscribe so I can feed my family of only me, and I love you all. Bye.